Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast do not reflect the views or opinions of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Make sure you like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please rate this podcast 5 stars where applicable and leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 43. We've got a hot topic tonight, hostile management. I am back this week. Unfortunately, Bill is not with us this week. He is family stuff going on. So he should be back next week. We'll miss him, but we do have a fun topic to talk about tonight. How was your week there, Josh?
My week was pretty good. Was a little concerned when I got a call Thursday mid-morning asking me about one of the customers because the RCA called out. Then she wasn't there again Friday. Then I found out Saturday morning she actually hurt her back or shoulder running parcels on Wednesday, so who knows when she'll be back. But it was a good week. Had our marriage mail, showed up, said they dropped it off about 7:30 Saturday morning. About 9:30 or so, the clerk says, "Do you guys want it?" Like, sure. So I regretted at the moment having to case it on top of the GPS and rest of the mail. But at least I don't have to worry about it Tuesday. It's already gone. James, how was your week?
Well, it was okay. Mail volume was kind of low. Did start getting the COVID tests in. And then on Friday, it was as if the floodgates opened at the plants because I had 8 trays of DPS, double my normal trays of DPS. I had 3 times the level of flats that I've had for the past 3 weeks. And on top of that, I had a box holder to deliver with them. It was a bad day. I didn't get done until an hour over evaluation, which usually I'm like 15, 20 minutes below evaluation usually, but yeah, an hour over evaluation. It was really bad. And then, of course, I had Saturday off and not really much to speak about at work. A lot of people just mulling around because some of them went up, some of them stayed the same, some of them went a little down. So they're still trying to figure out what's going on and things like that. Still haven't gotten disputes back. And it's like there's people that just don't care and don't care to get solutions for carriers and don't care to solve them. My postmaster is beside herself on the fact that she hasn't gotten a response back on these disputes that she agrees we needed to have. And so she's waiting just as much as we are. And it's just not getting done. So other than that, today it was pretty much a quiet day around, but cold and windy today. Oh my goodness. I miss my 75 degrees. But how was your week, Kristen?
Yeah, talking about the weather, it was all over the place. I mean, Monday was shorts and a t-shirt and it was really hot. Tuesday I decided, you know what, I'm going with shorts and a tank top. And yesterday I was wearing long sleeves and turning the heat on in the LLV. So yeah, I totally, and I swear I saw that dreaded 4-letter word that starts with an S swirling around yesterday with the rain.
Not at all. No,
no.
nope, not at all. No.
I'm further to the north than you. It's always been a rule up north. If the month has the letter R in it, you may just see it. So September through April, yeah, not uncommon up here. But my week we actually was heavy all week with mail. DPS was heavy all week. Lots of frickin' junk. My flats were heavy all week for the most part. Yesterday was extremely heavy, and Wednesday was extremely heavy. It's been a week, that's for sure. I mean, I had to run my aux route as well yesterday, so it was a 10-hour day for me yesterday. And then, of course, leading into our topic of hostile management, I had a little fun on I had a little fun on Friday with my postmaster, and I guess he was upset because I have later come to find out yesterday that she is on the list with district of not having the greatest. She's not thought highly at district anymore. Let's put it that way. And so now she's in the hot seat with her boss. And we have a cleaning person who's a contract cleaning person. He's not part of a union or bargaining unit. He's just a contract. He is disabled. And he took a break, and she went off on him for taking a little bit of a break. And his back was killing him. You gotta do what you gotta do. And he is so tired of her BS that he told her that consider that his 30-day notice for resignation. And then when the carrier next to my case came in and turned on the radio, she stormed over to the radio and turned it off and said, "No radio, no music today. We're not listening to the radio. I'm not having it." And went back to the desk. And then, then she started in on rec scans, because we all know with this latest update on the scanner, was for at least first when you go under the rural activities that it wasn't escaping out to the main menu after you clocked in or anything. It was hanging out. So there have been, and I've seen it on the social webs with people, that accidentally hit clock in twice because it's still hanging out on the screen. You go to pick up your scanner and you accidentally hit something. Well, now her boss was coming down on her about these extra accidental scans, and so instead of speaking to the people one-on-one that were having the issues, she throws it all out at all the carriers and threatens discipline if we don't pay better attention. And at that point, I stepped out of my case and told her, good luck with the discipline on scanner data. I said it is in writing that you cannot there should not be discipline off the scanner data. I spoke up about the update and how that, you're going to accidentally hit something if it's not zeroing out. Well, you should just escape out of it, was her response. And, well, if people are aware of the update right before they did anything, that, hey, okay, we'll pay more attention. Well, you kind of learn as you go, because nobody said anything about an update. Because who reads anything when we log in? We gotta clock in before we read anything. Am I right, guys?
Yeah.
So,
and on top of that, when have we ever gotten training on how to do all these scans from management?
exactly. So as she's just going off on her little tiff and I'm doing the little, hey, no, good luck with that. Well, if you want to go ahead and discipline it, it's going to be a grievance. Well, you can grieve anything. Yes, we can, but you're likely not going to win this one. And that kind of threw her a little bit more, and she's all like, I need you guys to help me. You need to help me, and you need to pay attention. And I was still in my case, and I said, some of us have been helping you for the last 2 years. And then I got a Kristen, and she storms off to her office in tears. Meanwhile, the newer RCA standing there going, what the hell is going on? And coworker next to him says, remember when I told you she had multiple personalities? He's like, yeah. He goes, this is number 2. I was talking to my supervisor, and I said, I have up to 14 days to file a hostile work environment grievance. I said I'm really tempted because she should not be threatening discipline on the floor. Ever.
In front of everybody. In
In
front of
front of
everybody.
everybody. Even our contract carrier sub was willing to be a witness and statement because she's tired of her crap. And she's the contract carrier sub. So, yeah, it was. Yeah. Tuesday
I
should be even
mean,
more fun.
you should file the grievance, personally, in my opinion, because the only way to get it to stop is to file the grievance and have a steward step up and make management acknowledge that they're messing up. Of course, it would help if there was actually a steward in that office still.
Yeah, because when there was a steward in that office, that steward unfortunately had to stand by and watch her treat people that was not that steward like this, and they would not stand up for themselves. Now, and that was, that's the hardest part about a steward is you're, on the rural craft, unlike the city craft, rural craft, stewards cannot initiate a grievance on behalf of a carrier. Now, if it's affecting more than one carrier, you can go ahead and file a class action if those carriers want to file a grievance. And this is where it comes down to in an office where carriers are afraid of retaliation for filing grievances that they won't even attempt it. So instead, they're going to go try and stroke the ego of the hostile manager. Oh, are you okay? Is there anything? No. You do not stroke the ego of a narcissistic bipolar person.
You don't stroke the ego of anybody that's in the wrong.
No. So having this conversation with my supervisor, she then is standing up for the postmaster. And I grant you not, when this person was in our office before, our supervisor now, she was a 204B clerk when she transferred to another state to be a supervisor. And then when our position opened back up, I was a year and a half, almost 2 years later. Now, when she left, our current postmaster was a supervisor, not the postmaster. So she had no experience of what she's like as a postmaster until now. And so now she's standing up for her. And well, she's in the hot seat with her boss. I understand she's in the hot seat with her boss, but that doesn't give her a right to threaten discipline to carriers. If she has to if she wants to talk about something, she either needs to do it on an individual basis with those that it's affecting, or she needs to talk to people in a better manner rather than talking at them or down to them. She wonders why she can't keep help. Well, this is why. Because anybody who walks in the door now does not want to work for somebody like that. And I don't blame. I mean, and honestly, guys, Wednesday, I was ready to walk out the door. I had already told her the week prior that I needed to be out by 3:00 on Wednesday. Wednesdays usually are not very heavy. It's usually not a big deal. I'm extremely tired. I'm working 6 days a week on a 45K, sometimes running my aux route on top of it. This is not a light 45K by any means. I mean, a light day for packages is anywhere between 104 to 125 on a light day. Okay. So this is the least desirable route in the office, and I'm stuck with it. But that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. But I told her the previous week, look, my daughter's last soccer game is Wednesday. Her games were on Mondays and Wednesdays. She lives 2 hours away. I at least want to get to her last game. It's a Wednesday. And Wednesday, we got hammered. Wednesday was not a good day. Our water bills came in raw. And packages were crazy. Flats were heavy. I was starting to walk out of the office at 11 a.m. to leave the office for the route at 11, and I reported at 8. And the supervisor's like, well, you're going to make it? And I was like, I lost it. I was that exhausted and upset to what I had to deal with. that I lost it on the supervisor outside. I broke down into tears. I had already thought about going home. I was going out to load and I looked at my car and I was like, I could just get in my car and go home right now. And all this stress would be over with. But I didn't. But I just,
People feel that way.
yeah.
There's a lot of people that feel that way right now with the way that they're treated by management, with the way the job is treating them, with how Rex turned out for them and everything. They're feeling the exact same way you felt that day. Was it's easier for me to just leave this and go somewhere else than deal with this hostile work environment and the constant crapping on that we get.
Yeah. And I have not seen my daughter since the end of June, beginning of July. You know, yeah, she lives 2 hours away with her dad. And so, and that's what gets me, because this is not the first time in the last 2 to 3 years that I've gone at least 3 months without seeing my youngest daughter. You know, she's going to be 13 in a couple weeks. And I was upset. I was clearly upset. Supervisor tried to give me a hug, and I said, you know, this is bullshit. I said, this job has come before my family for so long. I'm over it. I am completely over it. And I got out to the route. About a half hour later, I got a text from the postmaster. And she goes, well, how much do you think you can get done by 3 o'clock? I'm like, I honestly don't know right now, because I had just gotten out on the route. I was still on the north end. I'd have to get that end and start heading south before I could kind of gain where I would be at. And a little bit, and I was like, why even worry about it anymore? I ain't going to make it. And a few minutes later, she's like, well, if you can be done with the main 2/3 of the route by 3 o'clock, just bring the truck back and I'll finish the route for you. I said, that I can do. Well, I say that was usually the US 23 stretch, because that's where all the CBUs and stuff are, is that main. I have some on the north end, I have some on the south, and coming back up, I have several business CBUs and condos. So get through the CBUs. And so I did. I brought the truck back. I clocked out at 2:45, and I then picked up my other daughter from school, and then I drove the 2 hours to my daughter's game. So it was great. I got to see my daughter. We took him out to dinner and everything else. And then I got home. It was probably, I don't know, close to 10 o'clock by the time I got home Wednesday, then right back in the door Thursday. And then this bullshit on Friday. And then she had the audacity, when the one carrier went to go in and see how she was okay. She tells him, she's like, I can't believe, Kristen, after all the help that I did for her on Wednesday. Really?
Quid pro
Yeah.
quo.
Again, she's turning it around and making it about herself. I'm
That's
sorry,
quid pro
guys.
quo. That's
Yeah.
harassment. Quid
Yep.
pro quo. I did this for you, now do this for me.
Don't work that way. You're going to threaten to discipline us on the workroom floor. I'm going to speak up. You
If
know,
you're doing
and,
something wrong, if you're doing something wrong, it's up to us, anybody, any carrier,
Mhm.
any carrier out there, to stand up and say, no, that's not what it says. It says this. Or, in Kristen's case, you cannot talk about disciplining carriers over things that you can't discipline them over.
Mhm. Exactly.
And as you can tell from Kristen's experience on Friday, a well-informed carrier scares management. We've been saying that all along.
Yes, because we no longer have a steward in our office, and I am the most informed carrier in that office. And as my work husband said when he was talking to the other carrier, because you know there's like 3 of us that talk outside of work pretty randomly or pretty regularly, and he's like, well, could you believe Kristen? He goes, look, she's about to go regular. She's over this BS. And he goes, you know what? And because she's standing up for herself, he goes, you know what? I'm done taking it too. Let her say something. He goes, I'm going to stand up for myself. So if that's what it takes, is one person to finally stand up for themselves, to see that the other ones are going to stand up for themselves, then hopefully we can get this situation rectified. Because we're over it. We are completely over it. And we're coming into the holiday season. As we all know, day after Columbus Day is the unofficial kickoff to Christmas. Tuesday is going to suck royally. We have no help. I am holding down a route until it goes up for bid. Our other RCA is working his primary. Our borrowed ones are working their offices. So guess what? The postmaster now has to saddle up and run my aux route. She's not going to be happy about it. And if she starts opening her mouth in ways that she should not be opening it Tuesday, I will shut her down. And if that means she walks out the door, which I thought she was going to do that Friday because she had her coat on and had her purse in hand. I was really hoping she was going to do it, but then she didn't. If that means I have to work 12, oh God, I say it as an RCA, 12 plus hours to make sure that that aux route gets delivered as well, then that's what I'll do. But it's just ridiculous that
You're not going to punish the customers because of management.
exactly. No, I will not punish the customers through the management. I'm getting to know these customers more on this route that I'll be taking over with. And, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to miss her, but welcome. They're looking forward to getting to know me. I have 4 hardships that, I have one that she doesn't want to be a hardship, though she probably could be. She has a really hard time physically getting out to her mailbox. I did have a package for her, so I finally got to meet her this past week. And I did she goes, well, I got the informed delivery now, so that really helps. She goes, so if you see stuff in the box, if it's just, junk, she goes, I said, that a problem. I'll look the other way at junk. I said, but if I start seeing that it's, first class mail, it's important stuff, and it hasn't been picked up for a few days, I said, I'll bring it to the door and I'll come check on you. And she's like, oh, would you please? That would just be great. Because I know she has physical issues. So, I'm getting to know these customers, and I have quite a few of them that I am looking out for on this route already. So, I'm not going to let my customers down. If it's going to be, unfortunately, 7, 8 o'clock at night when you get your stuff, that's what's just going to be, but I'm not going to make them suffer. Because that's the best part that I love about this route is my customers. I'm meeting new dogs on my route that I absolutely love. My dog doesn't love me quite so much when I come home, but I had one that could really be intimidating. I met him first with the owner outside. I got to know him. I showed up yesterday at the door. I saw the owner's car, but he wasn't outside. Dog was outside, opened the door. I said, okay, here's the test. And he barked at me, and I said, hey, guys. And hey, buddy. And he just was like, oh, it's you. He just sniffed me around. I put the packages on the porch. I gave him a couple quick pets, and off we went. I got another one that is, I honked. They had a package. She opened the door. That little chihuahua just to come running out like, it's Kristen. I get my pets. And then I got another one around the corner from there is a 9-month-old Great Dane pup. He just, if the kids are outside and mom's outside, I'll stop. The kids will come and then he just kind of comes up and puts his head in the window like, okay, I'm here. You need to pet me. This is the part of the job I love. This is why I did not walk out on the job Wednesday, though the thought was very, very, very strong. But yeah, it's these hostile environments, and it's not getting any better. Nobody's applying for our office because she has the reputation. Nobody wants to work for her. Obviously, when you've gone through as many subs as we had, 6 since I became the OJI that have come and gone since November of last year. 6 of them. Don't let it go low. Don't make me count how many since before that, before I was an OJI. So she has that reputation. Nobody wants to work for her. And when they do come in and they work and they get treated like that, they quit. And regardless of how well they're doing or not doing, they catch on rather quickly and they're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to put up with this crap. And they walk out. That's why we can't keep people. All right. I'm going to turn that over to somebody else real quick. I'm going to step off my box.
Josh, you've been quiet this whole time. I respect that, but now it's your turn.
Well, part of it was not having a choice, as you can see by the photo. But I know like the 1204B at my office is, to be polite, not very personable. And she can get a bit snippy with her responses. She also has had this nasty habit of pulling these RCAs like every day to run parcels on the other zone instead of, letting them train so they can get proficient at the route so they can do it to cover the route. I know like a week or two ago, I was off Thursday. Friday morning, first thing comes over to, well, she can't say walk, hobbled over to me and it's like, what are you training her? She was out there till 9 o'clock last night. I'm like, well, I just ignored her. And then when I was talking to one of my coworkers, she was like, you're not training her nothing because they keep pulling her to run parcels on different routes. But I'm sorry. Go on.
And they shouldn't, if she's not been trained, they shouldn't be pulling her off to run parcels. She should only be running parcels if she's not scheduled to do the route. They shouldn't be pulling her off the routes to do parcels. That should
Yeah.
be, if she's not scheduled and they need help with parcels, to call her in to do parcels, not pull her off a route to run parcels.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
you're not training people that way. I mean, I have to go in tomorrow and case flats. We don't have parcels to run. There's only 2 of us. He only knows mainly his primary route, and he's ran one other route. So I'm gonna let him case. He's running his primary route Tuesday, so I'm gonna let him case that up first, as I'm gonna case up my big route first, and then I'm gonna have him go over to the other route and case that one up, and then I'm just gonna work my one side, and we'll get to what we get, and we get what we get done. I mean, I can case that whole office up in about 2.5 hours on my own. So we should be able to get everybody done. But after seeing the load of flats that we got Friday and Saturday, I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical on how much we're going to get on Monday as opposed to the landslide coming in on Tuesday.
Yeah. Well,
And
it
don't
all
forget
depends
Prime
on
Days,
how much people mailed out Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, and Prime Days start
'Cause-
on Tuesday.
Tuesday and
Yeah.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So think
it's
about this.
just,
We're gonna get killed Tuesday because this holiday is the worst of all day after holidays. I don't know
yes.
why,
Mhm.
but this one is the absolute worst all year.
Because you
Tuesday,
get all the Christmas
Wednesday,
catalogs. It's all the Christmas catalogs.
Well,
no,
no,
that could be it.
it's just package heavy. I mean, like I said, this is, I'll
But
have 9
Tuesday,
years, 9 years in December, and I've worked a couple different offices. And this is always the day after Columbus Day is always the most heaviest for everything.
yeah.
It's so, I mean, in my route in general gets a lot of big stuff. I have just about every single mom and pop resort and hotel in town on my route. There's only one currently that's on a city route, and there'll be another one when that one gets finished on the city route. But I have all the privately owned ones in town. And when COVID hit, a lot of the hotel supply chains folded. And so everybody was ordering off Amazon, and they still do. I mean, we have a POOM that wants to do a Zoom conference talking about the additional scans, but we're not doing trip to doors correctly, and we're not doing this correctly because he doesn't like the numbers. I'm sorry. I don't care if I have a handcart to use or not. When I'm carrying, or when I have commercial size cases of toilet paper that the hotels order multiples of at one time, I'm gonna have multiple trips to the door because those suckers are huge, and you're only gonna get one on a hand cart, if that. That it's
Depending on the hand cart
ridiculous.
you have, you might be able to stack 2.
Yeah. But that doesn't always mean I'm gonna fit them through the door that way either. They may just be too big long-wise to try and get them on the hand cart to get them through the door because they're too wide to fit through the door. They're
Well,
and then in a neighboring office, one of the carriers got grief because he has Department of Health and Human Services on his route, and they ordered all their diapers and formula through the post office. And he had like 23 trips to the door because that's what you had. And there's no possible way that could be right. Well, why don't you get off your fat ass out of your goddamn office and come deliver this shit, and then you can tell us what is right and what's not.
Yep.
And that falls right along with hostile and benchmarking. And I brought that up too with the benchmarking. I said, that's benchmarking management. I said, when arbitration set this in stone, there was to be no unilateral changes from either parties. Both parties had to agree. Now, if management is going to all of a sudden make a unilateral decision on what is too many trips to the door, or too many authorized dismounts, or too many of this, or too many of that, no, there's a grievance for that.
Yeah, and now that you've made that statement, we're actually
I
going
would,
to
I
go
would say,
into
in regards to with that statement, I can tell you with my friend talking with him, he says yes, the system does flag if it's 150% over your average for the last 8 weeks, or the last 8 weeks of the data
your
collection
previous
period.
benchmark. Your previous benchmark.
He says, but all that is saying that, hey, you're 150% over what you normally do, what you normally have. He says when he sends that email out to local management, it's just saying, hey, I just want to let you know this carrier was over, and if it was justified because they have human services and they have 23 cases of formula that took 20 and diapers that took 23 trips to carry, that's justified. He says it's not there it's there for the ones that are trying to inflate that. Like we always say, do what you have to do, but make sure you can justify it. Make sure it's valid.
And
And
even
that's
when
all it's supposed to be, is to verify that, yes, these were valid entries. Because he's like, for example, well, unscanned parcels, for example, you have to put each one of those in individually. So you can't, and that's what, 3 keystrokes at least?
yeah,
He says you can't accidentally put 75 unscanned parcels in.
no, you can't accidentally put 23 trips to the door in. You can't it's ridiculous. And if you're looking at it, and if I was in management, Lord forbid I'll never do that, but if I was in management and I'm looking at this report and I see that a carrier normally has, maybe 2 trips to the door, 3 trips to the door a day, or, whatever, additional ones. And then all of a sudden, okay, they're at one location and they had 20 trips to the door. Okay, I'm going to look at it. And if that only happens, then you got to look at previous data. There may be a connection, I want to say, that says, okay, this may be a monthly thing with this location. But when you've got management that's taking this, okay, we flagged this carrier, we flagged this route because they had to, they're above 150% of their benchmark. You're letting management know, but then the local management or the PUM or the local management is then taking it into the effect of, well, they're in the wrong. That can't be possible. And we're going to go after them on this. That's where the issue is the management taking that information and twisting it instead of saying, hey, I just want to let you know, it kind of flagged it. Oh, yeah, DHS had their biannual order of diapers and formula. So yeah, it was multiple shifts. Oh, okay, no problem. But when you've got management saying, no, that's not possible, that can never happen like that,
Right.
that's where the
And
issue in that is.
right, and that's the point. It's the system flag, the system flags it. He sends the email out to the local management saying, hey, the system flagged this route for this particular scan, so they can investigate it and verify, yes, this was legitimate. There was a case where someone had, the postmaster got on them, and the carrier about it. They reached out to the ADR, who reached out to him, to my buddy, and he's like, what are you talking about? And he forwarded the email that was sent to the ADR, and she got back to him and said, okay, I can handle this now. Because of the
So,
fact that it just says, hey, this was flagged due to being over over that 150% threshold of what the route has been averaging.
so
And that's
in
where
that,
yeah, go ahead.
talking about creating a hostile work environment and recognizing a hostile work environment, all these examples we've just talked about are examples of possible hostile work environments. Management constantly getting on you for the scans you input, management getting on you for having the radio on when you've had the radio on for years, and just because they're having a conniption fit, they turn around and tell you no radio today. Things like that create a hostile work environment is why we're here today. Because not that long ago, our Director of Labor Relations, with the assistance of our Director of Steward Operations, put on a 10-minute training course for stewards on how to deal with hostile work environments. And 10 minutes is definitely not a long time to just even preface a hostile work environment, let alone discuss a hostile work environment and how to grieve a hostile work environment. So we're going to talk about that right now. And the biggest things I want to talk about on that for me, from my perspective, and this is actually close to Kristen too here, was the main argument that a lot of people have with hostile work environment is Joint Statement 4-40. And that is the joint statement on violence and behavior in the workplace that came out after the Royal Oak incident here in Royal Oak, Michigan, where multiple postal employees lost their lives due to an individual who got so fed up with the harassment that he took judgment into his own hands. And so they issued a joint statement, including all of the unions, including not only just the Postal Service, but it even included the DC Nurses Association, the Federation of Postal Police Officers, the National Association of Letter Carriers, National Postal Mail Handlers Union, the National Association of Postal Supervisors, the National Association of Postmasters of the United States, the National League of Postmasters of the United States, as well as the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. They all signed this agreement. And then later on, they had to go out and actually get a judgment out there, and that was the Snow arbitration, where the arbiter decided that because the Postal Service and the union signed this joint statement, it is contractually enforceable in the grievance process. And the joint statement 4-40, the biggest statement in the joint 4-40 is to treat everybody with dignity, fairness, and respect. Now, going into that, you can't have supervisors screaming at carriers on the floor. You can't have them backing people into a corner. backing them into their case where they have no escape, putting them in fear for their jobs or even for their lives. That is not what you're supposed to do. Now, how do you recognize a hostile work environment, guys?
Well, if the tension in the office when a particular person of management's in there and the tension, you can cut it with a knife. And when that person is absent from that office and everybody's in a good mood, I'd say that's hostile. Um,
Josh, what's your opinion on that?
Um, let's see. If there's constant derogatory statements being made, threats being made, is a good indicator. If you see, they have preferential treatment to some, but are negative treatment to others, could be.
yeah. Disparate treatment, definitely. Um, it could just even be the tone that management talks to people in. I mean, it may not even be what they're trying to do, but it could be how they relay stuff to the employees. I mean, it's such a broad spectrum. It can cover so much, but threatening discipline on the workroom floor, singling out a craft in general because you think it's them that turned you in for whatever you got turned in for. Uh, she did that in the past. There was an anonymous letter sent to the OIG's office, and she pulled the whole Royal Craft into the break room to confront everybody because she thought it was somebody in the Royal Craft. And we're all looking at each other going, what the hell are you talking about? Though it was entertaining watching her sweat and break out into hives as she was confronting all of us and on the verge of tears, but that was the entertainment value of that. I'm sorry. It's not the first time I put her into tears. The last time I did it as a steward, and I actually did it in the office away from everybody. But it's gotten to the point now where standing up for yourself, unfortunately, has to be done on the workroom floor in front of everybody because it gets absolutely nowhere. Arguing with other craft employees off the floor where the whole floor can hear it is another hostile work environment that has happened in the past. A discussion in the office got really, really, really loud, and everybody heard it. Cursing. There was a lot of F-bombs between management and another former employee who's no longer with us at the time that got completely out of hand and was actually brought out onto the workroom floor. I mean, I could go on and on just with the one particular manager in my office. But but yeah, there is a lot of examples out there.
Yeah,
But
and if you are a dues paying member, unfortunately you cannot access this as a non-dues paying member. But if you are a dues paying member and you go on the NRLCA's website and you go into the departments, steward operations, and steward reference guide, you go under letter H and look up harassment. There are a plethora of items there listed, including Joint Statement 4.40, Joint Statement J5, which is the second joint statement on this behavior after the second postal property incident, as well as DeJoy Diversity and Inclusion Statement and other items. You can also find them under Workplace Climate/Environment, and you can find them under Violence in the Workplace. There are tons of documents on this, which just, for me, having this many documents listed on just the reference guide alone tells me that this has been an ongoing, constant issue within the post office. And any good steward that is competent in these items can easily win a hostile work environment situation. Now, a lot of them could turn around, and because that manager is the one creating the hostile work environment, will probably not be able to solve it at step one, because that manager is not going to turn around and admit their mistakes, because management would rather climb a tree to lie than stand on the ground to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest things are, you want to have statements from yourself, from other coworkers, especially other coworkers. If more than one carrier is witness to this situation, it makes it a lot easier for the union to fight the hostile work environment. But
Which,
even just your statements alone can be enough to create a hostile work environment grievance.
and if you definitely are or suspect that you're in, get yourself a little notebook. Start documenting.
Document dates,
Monday,
times, and who
yeah,
and what was said.
exactly. And just keep that book. The city side, through arbitration in the past, have had supervisors and managers removed from being able to manage letter carriers in the past, directly or indirectly. So,
And
through
that's
arbitration.
happened
But
on both sides of the aisle. That's both city, rural, clerk, postal mail handlers. Every single one of these unions has done that to management.
but it's unfortunately it is a long, tedious process. You have to show the pattern that they've been. It's been a hostile, that you've filed on it and have gotten a cease and desist multiple times. You have to show the statements time after time after time of where this has been occurring repeatedly, for it to get to an arbitrator to say they are no longer allowed to supervise directly or indirectly a carrier or a clerk or whatever position it is. That's probably the most important thing, is documenting who, what, when, where.
James, were you going to get into MOU 25?
That's another one that's on there. That's between the union and postal management. But if you want to take that one, you're more than welcome to. I'm currently looking up a couple things on the NLRB that relate to this stuff as well. So
Okay,
go ahead with that. And
I'm going to read the MOU 25 real quick. MOU 25 is the Joint Workplace Improvement Process. And it says, the parties are committed to creating and enhancing a culture in the workplace that improves relationships between management and the rural letter carriers for the purpose of providing a safe, efficient work environment in which all employees are treated with dignity and respect. The parties recognize that such a work environment puts the Postal Service and its employees in the best position to accomplish our mission of providing the highest quality of service to our customers. Therefore, the parties agree to the following Rural Joint Work Improvement Process, the RJWIP. The process will be overseen by the Vice President, Labor Relations, and the President, National Rural Letter Carriers Association, or their designees. Representatives will be designated at the area and district levels. These representatives will work in teams of 2, with one member representing the Postal Service and one member representing the NRLCA. Area teams will be comprised of the area manager, labor relations, and the NRLCA executive committeemen for that area or their designees. District teams will include district manager, labor relations, and the NRLCA district representatives or their designees. The district teams will jointly identify locations to implement the RJWIP. Once a location is identified, the team will thoroughly review all relevant factors that affect the workplace culture or safety of that location. These factors include, but are not limited to, the treatment of employees, communication between the rural letter carriers, union representatives, and local management, policies and practices regarding safety both in the office and on the street. After a review above is completed, the team will jointly develop recommendations for changes and an action plan to implement each location. A copy of the findings and recommendations will be forwarded to the district manager, labor relations for review, and assignment of responsibility for implementing changes. The team will monitor the progress of the action plan and ensure timely implementation of the changes. If either district team member believes that a location should receive a review and this is not supported by their respective counterparts, the location and appropriate justification for review should be forwarded to the area team with a copy to the area manager, labor relations. The area team will make a determination as to whether the RJWIP should be implemented in that location and assign the necessary personnel to complete the review. When an area team is involved in identifying or reviewing a location, a copy of their findings and recommendations must be sent to the Vice President, Labor Relations, and the President, NRLCA, or their designees. Should any issues be escalated to the national level, the parties will determine whether the RJWIP will be implemented to include recommending and monitoring changes. Now, in order to really get to try and file on an MOU 25, this is where your hostile work environment grievances need to be filed. You need to have, in order to invoke that, I do believe you need to have a history that they can go back and look at. Am I correct, James?
Yes, you need to have several hostile work environment situations with multiple carriers, because in order for them to do a full review on the office and find out if the management is the problem in the office, they need more than just one hostile work environment, because that just shows a fact pattern to support this situation. It's not a one-off. It just happened once and it's not going to happen again. It's a continuing problem that needs some kind of improvement plan.
Mm-hmm.
That,
And
or it's not just in person. And I know my wording is not the best here. It's not a personality conflict between a supervisor and a carrier.
I think you worded that just fine. But no, it's hard to do a MOU 25 unless there's a paper trail. And it's the same with any type of how do I phrase this? I would say it as a legal battle, as grievances are technically a legal battle between management and the union. So legal battles require paperwork. Paperwork comes from previous issues, situations going on. And the interesting thing about the MOU 25, it doesn't have to be just one office either. If that manager has moved offices and is continuing to have hostile work environments with carriers, that still can trigger an MOU 25 review. Because as long as somebody has a paper trail on that manager, somebody's going to eventually trigger an MOU 25 if that management continues to create a hostile work environment. Now, there are people out there that feel they should record interactions with management when it comes to a hostile work environment. And I'm going to tell you right now, recording in the post office for video and photography is against the rules. In some states, they require a two-party consent to record. Now, the NLRB back in February, on February 13th, ruled on NLRB versus Starbucks, started by Baristas United trying to unionize Starbucks. And the board stated that an employer cannot enforce a rule banning secret recordings if employees are using their phones to further their group interests or lay the groundwork for forming a union. According to this decision, in many instances, workplace recordings, often covert, have been an essential element in vindicating employees' Section 7 rights, which is what the NLRB covers, is the National Labor Relations Act. Now, take that as you wish, as carrier discretion, but know that a lot of management is fully against recording in the post office because then they can't climb a tree to lie. So take it as you will, but supposedly, according to the NLRB, if it's vindicating employees by using the recording, the NLRB may back that recording, but take that with a grain of salt. And the NLRB has a backlog up to a year on cases, so you could be sitting for at least a year on a ruling. But I wanted to put that out there, that it's possible to be able to record.
Yeah, that's a big carrier discretion on that, though.
Yeah, because you're gonna put your job at risk recording, but it may lead to vindication overall.
Mhm.
But I have to put that ruling out there because it is a very, very important one when it comes to unions and unionizing and concerted activity to protect union workers.
I don't know if I personally would go that
No,
route.
I
But
would rather use witnesses. I would rather use witnesses for that, personally.
Yes, witness statements,
Yeah.
which, in my case, every employee in the office was a witness. Like I said, I even have our contract carrier sub was more than, she goes, if you need a witness, she goes, I'm here. And she was an RCA and she was a regular carrier in a different office at one time. So, she understands it, and even she's tired of it. I mean, it's pretty sad when the contract carrier is just that both of them are over her as well.
And that itself, having enough witnesses seeing this going on and filing the hostile work environment, if it happens 2-3 times, especially with even other union or non-union members of the Postal Service getting involved in the witnessing of this, is more likely to trigger the MOU 25 situation.
Yeah.
So, as it stands, the biggest thing you can do is keep track of what's going on around you. If you see a carrier getting harassed, walk over and be a witness for that carrier. Help your fellow craft members. Help your city carrier brothers and sisters. Help your contract carriers, your janitors, your clerks. It doesn't matter that they're a different craft. We're all doing the same job, which is moving mail and taking care of customers.
And we're all under the same roof, under the same management team.
And under the same joint statements.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Now, the biggest, hardest part of this is the proof, because, like we said, management's going to climb a tree to lie instead of stand on the ground and admit the truth. They're going to try and protect their position as much as possible. And I don't fault them for that, because that's what they were told to do. Over on From A to Arbitration, Corey talks about how a carrier was thrown under the bus by VMF management.
Yes. I've been listening to another podcast. I'm not gonna plug it quite, but you've seen in other groups, and I have been listening to Fed Up. And a episode ago, he had a former person that was formerly in management on there, and listening to her story, management throws each other under the bus. It's not necessarily just your local management. Management up higher does the same thing to management below them. It just keeps going on down the line. It's like that picture of the birds up on top on the electrical lines, and shit just rolls further south. And it's unfortunate that the hostile work environment goes all the way up to the top, as James has been outlining the Postmasters Q&A session in his group that he has taken over. I highly suggest, if you're not in that Facebook group, to find it and read it. And the national proceedings are up on the webpage. If you aren't subscribed to get a hard copy, they are up on the NRLCA website, and I highly suggest reading it. And you can see how much it flows from the top.
And you can verify the statements that I went through on the Q&A are exactly what was said and transcribed by the court reporter that was sitting there for the whole convention. And I got to give her mad props. She kept up with all of us through all of that. It was amazing to watch her typing away on her stenographer and typing all that stuff up, and then turning around and having to write it all out afterwards, listening to the proceedings again and making sure all the words are correct. She had to sit there and go through her entire typings and make sure every word was correct before they could be published as they are now. What you see there in the proceedings publishing is exactly what the transcriber wrote. So what the stenographer wrote, the court reporter, which is called stenography, wrote during the whole proceedings. There is no modification to it other than what was voted to be removed by the delegation at National Convention, just so you guys are aware.
And the times when stuff is voted on to be removed, it's not necessarily stuff that needs to be out in the I'm going to say publicized anyways, but it may be irrelevant to what was actually going on.
It had no bearing on the proceedings.
Nope.
And they were more I would say they were actually disparaging remarks towards the craft was what was removed.
Yep.
So
but other than that, the proceedings are definitely pretty much word for word that is spoken on that floor by every single party that gets to a microphone, including my nomination of Bill. That's on there. And thank goodness I don't have any pictures in there this year. Last year's pictures were horrendous. But
speak for yourself. I looked extremely petrified in my photo in there.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna have to request the hard copy.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a request in too to get them. But I did download the current one just so I could skim through it real quick. I haven't sat down and read it yet. I haven't
Yeah,
had time.
I went through just to look for a couple of things real quick on it, and I know, like you said, she transcribes verbatim, but I know there are some scripter errors that I've noticed, but
There will
you
always
can
be
make,
those.
I'm
yeah,
not
but
overly
you
worried
can
about
make, yeah,
Scrivener errors, that's
I'm just saying you can figure out what should have been said rather than what was typed out.
yep.
Well, at
And
next
it's just
national
a word here or there. You know what I'm saying?
well, at next national convention, you can turn around and call for uh, the proceedings from the previous convention to be modified for these Scribner errors, and then they have to fix them.
Right. Well, without being there to know exactly what was said, I can't, I can't. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
reading through it, I can tell that what was typed out was not the exact verbiage. You know what I'm saying? Like one word was off.
Yeah, but I'm at the point with this work environment right now. I am exhausted. As many RCAs and regular carriers out there across the country are exhausted. I am physically and I am mentally exhausted. And as Bill says, God, family, then the craft. And I'm not particularly a religious person, but I am tired of I am tired of the job coming before my family. I think that is what's bothering me more and more and more. I have a lot on my plate this year. My, as we talk about, my daughter's senior year of high school, she is busting her butt to make up those credits. I have to get her through the senior year. I've got graduation, open house. I've got my youngest is turning 13. That's a big thing for kids. We all know that. I've got my son trying to figure out if he's going to be able to come home on leave at Christmas time. I want to be able to try and spend some time with him. I don't have a moment to breathe. And I am in that office 6 days a week doing what I can. And I am mentally and physically exhausted. And I
Kristen,
am no more going to keep my mouth shut.
Kristen,
Yes.
take a step back. Take a deep breath. Sorry, I had to.
Okay. Now, here's the one that's come up several times, not only in our chat here, but in postings on Facebook and our groups and our page and things like that. What do you do when another employee, whether it be in the craft or another craft, creates a hostile work environment and management doesn't do anything about it?
You file on management for allowing a hostile work environment.
Yep.
You can't file on another employee, but you can file on management allowing it to happen.
Yep.
And the point behind it is you're not directly punishing the carrier or other craft person by grieving management not taking care of it. What you're grieving is the fact that management is not having just a discussion with those people to prevent this from happening. It doesn't have to lead to discipline for that other employee of the Postal Service, because management should not be allowing anybody to not treat anybody with dignity, fairness, and respect, because they are the ones in control of that office. They're the ones who are supposed to control that environment and keep it fair, equal, and calm for everybody. So you're grieving them on not doing their job. It doesn't have to go to discipline. It doesn't have to go to termination. It can just be, hey, let's sit down, have an investigative interview over this, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be an investigative interview. And investigative interviews don't always lead to discipline. But it's a chance for management to find out what's going on, see what the issue is, and maybe come up with a solution that prevents it going on further down the road.
Correct.
Agree, 100%.
So I hope this helps you guys in dealing with a hostile work environment. We hope that nobody has to deal with a hostile work environment ever, but it's going to happen. As we've said, there's lots of documentation on that. There's lots of MOUs and grievance, step 4 grievances on that, as well as other documentation, including actual postal documentation for how management is supposed to handle hostile work environments. So we hope you guys now have the tools to help yourself through a hostile work environment. And we hope that your designated union representative finally got to say it in this episode. Hope your designated union representative will step up and protect you through the hostile work environment grievance procedure. Josh, you have any final thoughts on this?
I think we've pretty much covered all there is to cover. You know, where in our chat there was discussion about being the hostility being physical contact, whether it's management or another employee. I would say absolutely call the, you know, like it was someone else commented, call the police, file that police report. Even if you don't press charges, which that's your prerogative one way or another, that police report is a great addition to the statement of the hostile work environment and management allowing it or not preventing it, I should say.
Kristen, your final thoughts on this topic?
I think we all need to stand up for ourselves, stand up for our craft. And if you're in a hostile situation, please document everything that you can possibly document. Coworkers document. I know I do have a coworker that documents stuff. He was doing it for me during my time as a steward, especially when I was not present in the office, because that's when a lot of stuff would happen when I was not present. But all it takes really is one person to stand up for themselves and to see the others to say, hey, maybe I should stand up for myself too. And that's where it begins, is you need to stand up for yourself, and hopefully the rest will follow in line and try and get this beat. But yeah, definitely, witness statements, witnesses, even like I said, if it's a clerk, a city carrier, a contract carrier, the janitor, maintenance, whatever you have in your office, as I know all offices are different. Co-workers, RCAs, regulars, CCAs, PTFs, and maybe even sometimes a supervisor. I'm not going to say, not all of them are in line with that. I mean, my supervisor was a little taken back by it all because she hadn't seen it before. But then she turned the tables by the end of the day and was, defending her. So, that to me is obviously not a good witness. But it's time that we all stand up. We need to stand up against management And if you're not getting the backing from your designated union representatives, you need to go up the chain. And if you're not getting the backing from them, then you need to do what you need to do. But standing up for yourself is where it starts.
And
And
I just want to follow up with what you're saying with, yes, you need to stand up for yourself, but you want to do it in a courteous and professional manner, because
yes,
you don't want to start getting loud and yelling and throwing profanity around, because that's going to do is get you in trouble.
yes, that will
Just say,
that'll get you in
say,
more trouble.
hey,
But be the bigger person. What Josh
yeah,
saying, be that bigger person. I did not curse. I
bring
did
it,
not swear. I just,
bring it to their attention. Hey, that's that's not acceptable behavior.
and if that means having to say, look, we need to go have a talk in the office, take a witness with you. It doesn't have to be a union rep, but you can take a witness with you. Have a witness. Because he said, she said goes nowhere if it's just you and management. Take a witness with you. That, I highly suggest having a witness, whether it's somebody of another craft, a coworker, union rep. If one's not available, have a take a witness with you, and that way there is somebody there that can back up what was said or how things play out.
Transpired.
Yes, thank you.
You go up the chain. You go up the chain. You go up the chain. You go from your designated union rep, whether it's your local steward, your area steward, your assistant district representative, or your district representative. That's the chain in the local area. Then you go to your national regional officer, which is your committeeman at national headquarters. And then from there, you go to the director of steward operations. From there, you go to the director of labor relations, and then to the vice president, and then the president. And if none of them help you through it, file an EEO, an equal employment opportunity case. That's another option you have after you've exhausted your union options. You have to exhaust the union options first, because we have a contract that requires us to go through the grievance process first before we can file that stuff. So make sure you're following the chain, as they call it, the chain of command through the system before you get to the point where you bring in outside agencies to deal with it.
Yes. So we're going to wrap this up tonight, and I'm going to lead off with those that have tomorrow off. Enjoy that extra day off. Please relax, gear yourself up, because Tuesday's going to suck. And I do have to go in for a couple hours tomorrow, case up mail, which is fine. Just me and the other RCA. Still in RCA. And the RCA that was assigned to this route that walked off the day after Labor Day has fallen off payroll, yet the carrier that retired August 31st has not yet fallen off payroll, and therefore the route is not yet gone up to bid. It's been 2 full pay periods since she retired, and so I'm still waiting. I'm still an RCA. I'm still technically a designated 79, yet I run my Ox route about once a pay period right now. So
I would contact your rep in regards to that.
I'm not even. It's.
She's a designated 79 that switched over to a full route, so she should, after 30 days on that route, switch to a
90.
designated 74.
90 days.
No.
90 days.
90 days she has to choose which way she wants to go, and because she's not the silver record on that route, she can't go 74.
Nope, can't go 74 because that is even though I am a 5-1 on my Ox route, my primary route is not the one that I'm covering. I am just putting in my time until the route goes up for bid, which hopefully
you could put
soon.
in writing that you want to switch, but at the which is your primary.
Yeah. Honestly,
But
I'm
it,
working 48 to 55 hours a week right now. I'm not even really worried about it. I mean, I know what I can do. I definitely know what I can do and the steps to take it, but by the time all that would go through, the route's going to be up for bid anyway. So I'm just not even, personally, I'm just not even worried about it. I'm just working. That, you know, I, it to me, it's just not worth the extra hassle that I have right now to decide to, okay, is it going to be more than 90 days before this route goes up for bid? I'm really not even, because I don't think it should take that long. It's just a matter of her. We have gotten the notification of the route vacancy due to the carrier retiring. It's just the fact that she has not come off of payroll just yet. So that's what we're waiting on. And then it'll be up for bid. It's ready to go. It's just HR paperwork, basically. Going through and getting it taken care of. But if it does go to the point where I'm looking at approaching the 90 days, then yeah, then I will put it in writing and I want it retro back to September, what is it, 7th, 8th, somewhere in there, whatever the day after Labor Day, or the Wednesday after Labor Day was when I officially started running that route every day. So, no, I completely know what I can and can't, what I can do on that. And honestly, that
oh,
ox
we
route
know you
just
do. We're just
and even the newer sub and the other regulars are like, why is this ox route just not rolled back into Route 6? Which it very well should be. I mean, it's 97 boxes. It's that Route 6 only a 41K. It should be. Unfortunately, as we all know, they don't have the program in place fully to do any territory adjustment. So, and I'm going to close off with, since I wasn't here last week with the new Rex evaluations, our office did fairly well. I'm going to give my quick update and then I'll move on. Our 4748K route did go down to a 46, so she right now is currently saved from having to be cut. Our 44H stayed the same. The two 45Ks, which one of them is the one I'm running, stayed the same. Our 41, the one POV 41K, which went to a 41 after we had the mile remeasurement done from his dispute from the last mini mail survey. And the other one, which was a 42J before the first mini mail survey, that went to a 41K. He did go up another hour to a 42K. However, he did get his 10 years in July, elected to take the high option, and he was now a 46J, and he's happy with that. So, my office did fairly well.
well, that's good. Glad to hear it.
Yes. Yep, a little update since I wasn't here last week on that. But anyways, guys, I want you to have a safe Tuesday. Enjoy the day tomorrow that you can. Deep breath and stay calm. Keep calm. It's the day after Columbus Day. It's gonna be crazy anyways. We all know that. If you haven't worked a day after Columbus Day and it's your first time doing it, my thoughts are with you. But, you're going to be overwhelmed. But like Josh says, take a step back, take a deep breath, and then just attack it head on. That's really all you can do. I mean, it's the unofficial kickoff to the Christmas time, to the holiday season for the post office. We are in a new guarantee period now. So starting on Saturday, for those regulars that that get a DACA 3, working your relief day, you have to use that X day within the same period. If it is not possible, it will convert to a DACA 5. This goes until the end of the Christmas overtime period, which I do believe this year ends on December 22nd. This eventually will affect me, but as of right now, it doesn't. I'm still in RCA. Christmas overtime period begins the first Saturday of December, runs for 3 weeks.
Yes.
On that note, everybody, have a good week. Stay safe out there on Tuesday. It's going to be a long day for everybody. And I'm going to turn it over to Josh and James for their final comments for the night.
Okay. Well, since Kristen stole my thunder with the don't get overwhelmed, you'll probably have to step back and take a breath multiple times tomorrow. And unlike baseball, where there's no crying, there is crying at the post office, and I have and still do on occasion. It's
I did
okay.
Wednesday.
It is okay.
It
That's when
happens.
you know. That's when you know it's time to take that step back and take that deep breath.
And if you are a smoker, go take a cigarette break.
Yeah. And to make matters worse, Tuesday being the day after a holiday, which is the worst holiday of them all for the year, Tuesday and Wednesday are Amazon Prime days.
Now quit scaring
So
everybody.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if you're in a office that does get Amazon, I'm praying for you.
I think that's going to trickle
'Cause-
right in through the following week, especially in my office.
Well, and notice I didn't say Wednesday. Wednesday you'll start to see some, but the bulk of it will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and like Kristen said, the beginning of next week it'll start tethering off. But on that note, like I always say, if don't get overwhelmed. If you do, take a step back, take a deep breath, step back in. Have a good week as best you can. We'll see you next time. James, your thoughts?
I'm surprised you didn't steal Bill's line on that one since Kristen stole yours. Since Bill's
Well,
not here.
Since you were going last, I was saving it for you.
Oh, okay. Well, a hostile work environment is something that every employee has to deal with at some point in their career of work. And it doesn't matter if it's here at the post office or at another company that you've worked for. I've worked for multiple companies and had hostile work environments in several of them. But dealing with this in a contractually positive way is the only way to get the situation resolved. And stepping up to management when they're creating a hostile work environment, whether it's management themselves or another employee, is the best step you can take to solve the situation. Just quitting and leaving doesn't solve the situation for other employees, doesn't help them. Plus, when you stand up, the other employees might start standing up with you. And that's the biggest thing. We all need to stand up together because we're all in this together. Now, take care of yourselves out there and make sure that you're doing everything you can to do it safely. And remember, you're the most important delivery of the day. So get home to your family and loved ones. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good time, guys.